You ever get that feeling like, whoa, did we just skip ahead a decade in spaceflight? Things are moving so crazy fast these days.
It's wild, right? And the speed of everything happening is what really blows me away.
No kidding. And that's what we're diving into today. We've got some brand new data on commercial launches from just last quarter, Q3 2024. Spoiler alert, it's a game changer.
Totally agree.
Okay, so let's talk numbers. When you look at the sheer quantity of orbital launches, one company just dominates the chart. SpaceX.
They're in a league of their own.
Seriously, 26 launches in 3 months. 26.
It's almost hard to wrap your head around. To give you a comparison, the China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology, they came in second place.
Okay, so how many launches are we talking for second place?
9.
9.
Wow.
I mean, everyone keeps saying we're in a new space race, but this feels different from, like, the U.S. Soviet era. Back then, it was all about politics, right? Now it's like...
The Wild West.
Exactly. Everyone wants a piece of the action.
It's a land grab, but for space. And it's not just how often they're launching, it's what they're launching. And that's where a little something we call Upmass comes in.
Upmass. Sounds intriguing.
Basically, it's a measure of how much weight a company can get into orbit. Think of it as the heavy lifting championship of spaceflight.
Okay, I'm following you. So more upmass equals a more powerful launch vehicle.
Exactly. And we've got a chart that shows this in a really clear way.
Oh, I think I know the one you're talking about, the one where SpaceX's bar is basically off the charts.
That's the one. They've got an upmass capacity over 429,000 kilograms. For comparison, picture the International Space Station. That's the kind of payload SpaceX can handle.
That's insane. Okay, so let's put that in perspective. What about a company like China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation? They're a big player.
They are, no doubt, but their total upmass is about 29,426 kilograms.
Whoa. Okay, so what you're telling me is SpaceX isn't just launching like shoeboxes into space. They can handle the really big stuff.
Exactly. Think large-scale telescopes, space stations, maybe even, eventually, the equipment we need to build a base on Mars.
Okay, now you're really getting me excited.
Yeah.
But it's not just about size, right? It's about how often they can launch these mega payloads. That's got to be a factor too.
Absolutely. And this is where SpaceX's whole reusability thing comes in. They've totally flipped the script with the Falcon 9.
Right, the whole landing a rocket on a barge thing, that still feels like magic to me.
It's game-changing technology. Before SpaceX, rockets were basically single-use. Launch it, watch it burn up in the atmosphere, and start from scratch.
Talk about an expensive fireworks show.
Exactly. But SpaceX, they said, why not build a rocket that can fly back home, use it again and again?
Way more efficient and way more affordable, right?
Exactly. And that brings us to SpaceX's next big bet, Starship.
Starship, huh? Okay, now we're talking. That thing is straight out of science fiction. But for people who aren't, glued to every SpaceX live stream, break it down for us. Why is this whole reusable rocket thing such a big deal?
Imagine if every time you took a plane trip, they just chucked the plane afterward.
Okay, that would be a little ridiculous and expensive.
Exactly. That's what the traditional rocket industry was like before SpaceX came along. Build it, launch it once, let it burn up on re-entry. Hugely wasteful, hugely expensive.
So SpaceX swoops in with the Falcon 9, lands the thing on a drone ship, like something out of Star Wars, and suddenly everyone's like, wait, we can reuse rockets.
It was a total paradigm shift. Suddenly, launches become way more frequent, the cost of getting to space plummets, and the things we can even dream of sending up there, well...
The sky's the limit.
More like the sky's not even the limit anymore. Which brings us to a pretty intriguing question, actually, one that Elon Musk himself threw out there recently.
Oh, yeah, Musk. Always on Twitter, right? Was this the one about, SpaceX's market share?
The one and only. He's predicting SpaceX will be responsible for launching something like 90% of all Earth's mass to orbit this year alone.
90%?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me just process that for a second. That's basically a monopoly, right?
It's definitely market dominance on a level we haven't really seen before, especially in such a new industry. And it gets even wilder.
Wilder. Okay, you're going to have to top 90%.
Musk estimates that once Starship is fully operational, flying regular missions, that number is going to jump to over 99%.
99%. I mean, that's incredible and also kind of terrifying. Are we cool with one company having that much power over, the future of spaceflight?
It's the billion-dollar question, no doubt about it, and there are no easy answers. On the one hand, look at the incredible progress SpaceX has driven. They've pushed the entire industry forward, made space more affordable, more accessible.
Sure, it's not just governments launching satellites anymore. We've got startups sending up constellations of, what are they called again?
CubeSats.
CubeSats, there we go. Even space tourism is becoming, an actual thing people can do.
Mhm. Exactly. Space is opening up in a way that wouldn't be possible without SpaceX's innovations. But, big but here, there's always a flip side.
Okay, so what's the downside of basically having, like, the Amazon of spaceflight?
Well, monopolies, even if they start with good intentions, can stifle competition. And without competition, things tend to stagnate. We need that drive to innovate, to push boundaries, or we risk getting stuck.
Right, so it's like we want SpaceX to succeed, but we also don't want them to be the only game in town.
Yeah.
So how do other companies even begin to catch up?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's not as easy as just, copying SpaceX's homework. They've poured years of research, billions of dollars, into developing these technologies.
So it's not as simple as, all right, let's just figure out how to stick the landing.
Not quite. We're talking a complete overhaul of how rockets are designed, built, flown. Everything from the materials to the engines, the thermal protection systems, the whole shebang has to be built with reusability in mind from day one.
So it's a totally different ballgame. Okay, so while SpaceX is off building Starship, aiming for Mars and beyond, everyone else is still trying to master the basics.
In a nutshell, yeah. But I wouldn't count the competition out just yet. There's a lot of brilliant minds in this industry, and innovation often comes from the most unexpected places.
It feels like we're standing on the launch pad of a whole new era, you know? But is this the SpaceX show, or are other players going to step up and make it a real race?
That's the big question, isn't it? And history tells us that competition, real competition, that's where the coolest stuff happens. Without it, well...
Things get a little, I don't know, stagnant.
Exactly. Think of it like, remember dial-up internet. We don't want the spaceflight equivalent of that.
No, we do not. But hey, maybe this is the spark. Maybe SpaceX's success is like the kick in the pants the whole industry needed.
It's definitely got people's attention. Investors, engineers, even just regular folks who never thought twice about space travel. There's this new energy, Resources flowing in, new ideas popping up. It's exciting.
So maybe it's less about copying SpaceX and more about, like, being inspired by them, finding new paths to the same destination.
Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
Think about the early days of computers. Apple was huge, right? But it was all the other companies, all those different approaches that got us to where we are now.
Right. So many choices.
Right.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. Let's say SpaceX hits those crazy market share numbers, like Musk's predicting, 99%. What does that future look like? Are we all just hitching a ride on the Starship?
It's a valid question, and honestly, it's one that keeps some folks up at night. Because it's not just about launching stuff, right? It's about who gets to decide what goes up there, what we do in space, what it all means.
Whoa. Okay, so now it's getting philosophical.
A little bit, but that's the thing about space, right? It makes you think bigger. We're talking about the future of humanity here, not just some corporate bottom line.
You're blowing my mind a little bit, but that's what I love about these deep dives. You ready to bring it home for our listener?
Always. What do you have in mind?
Well, I was thinking, tonight, when you're out there and you look up at the stars, all those twinkling lights, remember things are changing up there faster than ever. And what we do down here, the choices we make, they matter.
They really do. It's not just science fiction anymore. It's our story to write.
Boom. Mic drop. Seriously, though, that was fantastic. Thanks for joining me on this one.
Anytime. Always a blast to chat space with you.
And to everyone listening, keep looking up, keep asking those big questions, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the future.